Raise your fists together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody is somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Welcome to the Saturday Morning Forum. I'm Todd Yeary, Senior Pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland, and an advisor to Reverend Jesse Jackson, as we are in the countdown to the general election of 2024. On the minds of many voters is, what will the voting process look like? This morning, we're privileged to have a conversation with probably the foremost investigative reporter on voter suppression in the country. Greg Palast is with us to talk about his new documentary, Vigilante, and to have a more substantive conversation about the concerns about the 2024 election. Greg, thanks for hanging out this morning. You have been a busy person in this season. What's going on in the voting arena, and where does Vigilante, your new documentary, fit in that conversation?
Well, I've been busy because some really bad actors have been busier, so I got to catch up with them. So the film, which will be released on September 6th in Hollywood, and then it's going to be released to the public for free download on September 13. The film is Vigilantes, Inc., America's new vote suppression hitmen. And what is that about? Well, vote suppression. And people say, well, what's vote suppression? A really nice term. Well, it's a very polite term for shafting black people out of their votes and other people of color. And that's one of the nasty little secrets that we have in America. Not every citizen gets to vote. Not every citizen's vote gets counted. And it's not small, and it's whose vote doesn't get counted and who doesn't get to vote, who gets stopped from voting. And the answer is overwhelmingly people of color. So the main, and every 2 years, they have a new vote suppression trick. So this film, Vigilantes, Inc., is about the latest, greatest, most horrific, racist new tactic that they've come up with. A new vigilante vote challenges. Now, what is that? It started out 2 years ago in Georgia. And what happened is that they are allowing, started in Georgia, now it's moved to many other states, they've allowed individuals, not the government, to challenge someone's vote. So, Pastor, I could say, you can't vote. You shouldn't be allowed to vote. And your vote, your ballot, if you ask for mail-in ballot, you won't get it. If you try to go in and vote, they won't give you a real ballot. Because they'll say, you've been challenged. And it's quite a process to get your vote back. And it's not a lot of people are being challenged. In fact, in Georgia, we had 88 vigilantes. 88 vigilantes. And every one of them, as far as I could, of all 88, I'm not being partisan about them, every single one is a Republican official. All 88. And they challenge, are you ready for this? 88 people, not government people. 88 people challenged 180,000 Georgians' right to vote, and it was overwhelmingly voters of color.
So let's start there. How are they challenging the interest and the rights of people to vote in Georgia? You mentioned Georgia. It sounds as if this whole Vigilante, Inc. process extends to more states than we would otherwise imagine.
So there's two things. Look, as Gerald Griggs of the NAACP of Georgia says, every bad idea, every evil vote suppression trick is taken out first for a test drive in Georgia. I've been following Georgia for a decade because every evil idea, purging voter rolls, stopping people from voting because they claim that they're felons, whatever, there's all kinds of tricks. But in this case, again, this vigilantism started in Georgia, but now it's in about 43 states, almost every state of the union. And so what's happened is that what they do is, and how do they challenge? You asked a good question there. You know, like, well, do they have to like have a reason to challenge you, Pastor? Challenge me? No. What they claim that they do, what they've been doing is getting lists from this ultra right-wing group called True the Vote. They're the ones that came up with the list of 180,000 voters to eliminate. And now, this True the Vote organization, what they do is they give each vigilante, you sign up as a volunteer, in other words, a vigilante. You sign up and they give you, for your county, it has to be in your county, they give you a list of all the names they want to knock off in your county, and it's not small. In my film, Vigilantes, Inc., it opens up where I'm talking to a woman, a Republican Party official, who personally challenged over 32,000 voters in Cobb County, which is a suburb of Atlanta. 32,000. Now, how do you do that? She said she couldn't even, so many names she couldn't even print them out. So she literally just sent in an email with a file list attached. I mean, just press a button and you can stop 32,000 people from voting. And where does she get, I said, where did you get this? You know, how do you know these people are not good voters? In fact, I showed her photos of people that she'd knocked off, a black woman in her neighborhood. I said, this is your neighbor. You said she shouldn't be allowed to vote. Did you call her? No. Did you go to her address and see? She said she didn't live there. Did you go and see if she lives there? Why? And she says, I don't know. I just got this list from this group out of Texas called True the Vote.
So True the Vote compiles a list, finds maybe unwitting persons in certain counties to be able to activate this process of challenging votes.
Yep.
So let's unravel that a bit, and then I want us to kind of review a clip of Vigilantes, Inc.
So who came up with this 2,000 Mules film? It's an outfit called True the Vote. You may recall their other handiwork.
Let me explain.
Yeah, go ahead.
Those lists come from True the Vote.
Who's True the Vote?
They're out of Texas, and they work on this constantly, and they've been doing it for over 10 years.
This is the crew out of Texas that targeted Major Turner. And they're the hitmen behind mass attacks on hundreds of thousands of voters from Missouri to Pennsylvania. I hunted down the source of True the Vote's cash to Milwaukee, to the doorstep of their uber right-wing billionaire backers, the Bradley Family Foundation. Now, the Bradley Foundation secretary is Cleta Mitchell. Mitchell's being subpoenaed by Congress for her role in the January 6th insurrection.
There are certain counties in what we would call battleground states. Of course, your work says 43 of the 50, maybe even all 50 states, are battlegrounds for the right to vote. So True the Vote comes up with a list, and they say, based on this list, who do we have on the ground in these places that we can reach out to and rely upon them to really be our agent? It's not necessarily these folks. These are folks who are being recruited to be agents of True the Vote.
That's right.
To challenge the vote, to suppress the numbers, because as we saw in 2016, 2020, likely to see in 2024, the election's going to be decided on the slimmest of margins in a number of key states that are contested.
Right.
So let's unravel this onion a bit.
Okay.
Who is True the Vote?
Okay, so True the Vote is an organization that came out of the Tea Party movement, and they are backed by right-wing billionaires. In particular, there's a group called the Bradley Foundation out of Milwaukee. This is a crew, a foundation that has put aside $2.5 billion to run these vote suppression operations. $2.5 billion, this is no joke. They're funding True the Vote, and the counsel, the attorney for the Bradley Foundation, is Trump's lawyer, Cleta Mitchell. So you see the connection here. You got the right-wing billionaires, you got Trump's lawyers, and they're coming up, they have an algorithm to, some computer program which picks out supposedly illegal voters. Now you have to understand that the state of Georgia is really nasty aggressive about wiping out every voter that they can. they purge those voter rolls insanely. In fact, in my film Vigilantes, there's one case, and this is the state removing someone.
Has this ever happened to you before?
Never.
How long you been voting?
All my life, ever since I was old enough. But I've been voting right here ever since 1968.
Christine Jordan, I was at the polling station. She's 92 years old when I was at the polling station when she showed up to vote, and they told her, scram, you're not on the voter rolls. She'd been purged. Now you have to understand, she'd been voting at the same place for 50 years. They said she didn't live in Atlanta anymore. I went to her house down the street where she was living. And she's been living there a long time because I saw a picture of her with her cousin on the wall. Her cousin was Martin Luther King Jr. She's part of the King family, and they didn't let her vote. Now that's the state, but then once the state is done purging the voter rolls, then you got True the Vote. Now, they'll give you an example. So how do they come up with this list? Okay, let me go to one more example. We have one vigilante who challenged 4,000 voters, most of them black soldiers out of Fort Benning, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Now, why did he challenge those black? Well, we know why he challenged black voters, because voters of color, their color when they vote is blue. They vote Democratic, okay? I'm not defending the Democratic Party here. I'm just saying that's the reality. When you knock off black voters, you're going to almost certainly get yourself someone who is going to vote for Kamala Harris, okay? Now, this guy knocks off 4,000 voters. He said he didn't go through the list. He doesn't know anything. He didn't call anyone. He didn't check the list, all accusing people of not living in Georgia. So one of the soldiers he knocked off is a guy, Major Gamaliel Turner, who was working out of Fort Benning, but he was the reason why he wasn't there in Columbus when he asked for an absentee ballot. You know why he asked for an absentee ballot? Because he was absent. He was absent because the commander-in-chief assigned him to a military base in California. So these 4,000 soldiers were assigned to other bases. Well, guess what? In America, if you're a soldier assigned by the president to Iraq or Afghanistan or California or Germany, you don't lose your vote. You don't become a non-citizen because you're a soldier assigned. But that's what they were doing. So they're saying, oh, these guys don't live here. Well, temporarily, they have a temporary change of address, which is why you have absentee ballots, because you're absent, but you're still a citizen. And so this guy challenged 4,000 voters, and he gets this list from True the Vote. He doesn't check it out. And what has to happen, so in this case, Major Turner didn't get his absentee ballot. A lot of people would just say, well, I guess I never got it, and they're not going to bother. But he was going to bother for a simple reason. His father's Reverend Harold Turner co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference with Martin Luther King and Ralph Abernathy. He's from a major civil rights family. So he called the state of Georgia. He called the county and said, where's my ballot? And they said, you've been challenged. You don't get a ballot. He says, what do you mean I've been challenged? He said, well, no problem. And here's how you get your ballot back. They said, just come in and give us ID to prove that you are who you are, that you're a citizen, and that you live, your permanent address is in Columbus, Georgia. And he says, wait a minute. I'm a soldier, okay? You're just telling me I have to fly 2,700 miles 2 days before the election and prove I am who I am, that I'm a soldier, that I'm an American citizen? And as he says, I have to prove it again? And what he meant by that is black people have to go through this process again of getting their citizenship rights to vote. So he would actually have to fly. And you know what? He did. It was so important to him, he went and hired a Washington attorney, Mark Elias, who now works for Kamala Harris, went to federal court to get his vote counted. He had to go to federal court to get his vote counted. But the other 4,000 soldiers and their families, they lost their vote.
Let's take a moment and review a clip of this important documentation of what's going on. And then we'll have some more conversation on the other side.
You're telling me 2,600 miles away, 2 days for an election, that if I want to vote, all I have to do is show up and prove as an American citizen that I have the right to vote again?
Is this an attempt to remove a lot of Democrats, black people from voting to win the election?
I am far from that, sir, and you have crossed the line.
And today to come out and not be able to vote and no one can give you an explanation, like, it's extremely emotional and it bothers me. It bothers me to my core.
Why am I making this film? This vigilante group, there were 88 of them in Georgia. They challenged 180,000 voters. Well, guess what? The billionaires, you heard about the billionaires funding right-wing front groups. This group is called True the Vote. They have now signed up, not 88 vigilantes. These are not government officials. These are under new laws in swing states that allow people, anyone to challenge. I could say Barbara Arnwine can't vote. They've signed up 40,000 vigilante volunteers. 40,000. They have already, as of August 2, are you ready for this? It's not reported anywhere. They have challenged already 851,000 voters. 851,000 voters have already been challenged. They're heading towards 2 million challenges. This is going to be the most suppression-heavy election in American history. And I want you to all take down the information about the film because Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio have arranged to allow all of you to have free showings at your groups, your churches, your organizations. We need you to do that, as Barbara has been doing. Also, there's the great Rodney Ellis. Commissioner Ellis is one of the stars in this film. You got to see this film. It's funny, it's horrifying, but the most important thing, it's a warning, and I need you to make this movie into a movement with all the groups I'm working with so that we stop these vigilantes. Thank you so much, and bless the Jackson family for commanding this performance. Thank you.
We're excited to get more people involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in impacting public policies, if you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, you can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. For an annual membership of $35, or if you're a student or senior, $15, you can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. How do you become a member? Visit our website at rainbowpush.org and press join. Or maybe you'd like to support us. You can text the word PUSH, that's PUSH, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount you feel comfortable giving. You can also call us at 773-256-2775 or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
So Greg, in Vigilantes, Inc., there are many stories of just horrific, frustrating, disappointing experiences with folks who are only trying to exercise their right to have their voices heard. Why Vigilantes, Inc. as the method, and why should it really matter to all of us? What's the answer to the question, so what?
Okay, I'll start with so what by giving you another number. I just told you about 88 vigilantes who challenged 180,000 voters. We were able to block when I say we, I worked in coordination with C.K. Hoffler of Rainbow Push. I worked with Gerald Griggs of the NAACP of Georgia and others, and we were able to reverse, not all, but almost all the challenges. If there were a few more challenges that went through, Biden would not be elected. Because remember, he only won Georgia by less than 12,000 votes. But why should we care? Because now it's first of all, we should care about Georgia because that's the swing state, the swingiest state in America. But the other, get ready for this. This group, True the Vote, has now signed up 40,000 vigilante volunteers for all these states, concentrated in the swing states. 40,000, no longer 88, 40,000 for 2024. And they've already challenged 851,000 voters. And almost, the media ain't talking about this. Mark Elias, this attorney, this voting rights attorney, has said this is the #1 threat to our democracy right now. And I was very pleased to hear that Kamala Harris hired him to take on this issue. But, we have a lot of Trump-appointed judges. We have some very bad law out of the Supreme Court, so this is a tough one. So why do we care if 851,000 voters have been challenged? Because when they challenge those 851,000 voters, we could end up with the vigilantes, not the voters, choosing our president. I'm not here to tell you to vote for Trump or Harris. I'm nonpartisan, but I don't think vigilantes should pick the president. I think the voters should pick the president. And this is really serious stuff, because I can tell you right now, I will bet you, I know this, of the 180,000 voters that were challenged, right? Because they're basically saying these voters are acting illegally, are trying to vote illegally. Well, how many of them did they arrest? Because, if you're falsely registered, you try to get an absentee ballot, and you don't live in Georgia, and you're asking for a Georgia ballot, you don't live in Arizona, you ask for an Arizona ballot, that's a federal crime, 5 years in prison. It's also a felony crime in every state. So if there's illegal voters, arrest them. How many did they arrest? Well, out of 180,000 people just in Georgia that they challenged, exactly 0. Because there was no illegal voter.
Let's spend a moment there, because there's been a lot of talk about this rampant, widespread, folks voting several times, dead people voting, and yet you mentioned that this widespread recruitment effort across these several swing states, if you will, nobody's talking about that. Nobody's raising that as the true issue. Why do you think that is, and what can the regular, average, everyday person do to fight back against this Vigilantes, Inc.
Yeah, well, what
movement?
can we do? The #1 thing is protect your own vote, okay? And the way you start with that is check your registration, at least a month before the voting date, because then in most states, that's your cutoff to register to vote. Make sure that you are still registered. Go to, every county, every Secretary of State in America, this is your state office that handles voting, has a place where you can look up whether your registration is still there or if someone's challenged it. Now here's the problem. These vigilantes, under some of these laws in certain states like Georgia, can now challenge you on election day. So what happens if you show up and someone says, don't give them a ballot? It's like someone with a little iPad that has a list of people that they want to challenge. And we know who they're challenging, with the color of the people they're challenging. So they're going to challenge you. Now, what do? The lady behind the desk, nice lady, she says, well, you're challenged, so we'll give you a provisional ballot. Now, most provisional ballots never get counted. So what you have to do is produce all the ID you can. Make sure that you have something with your exact address, like a utility bill, a photo ID. Even in states that don't require photo ID or proof that you live where you live. Bring all that stuff anyway. Try to convince them to give you a ballot, not a provisional ballot. If you're stuck with a provisional ballot, you're going to have to do something called curing the ballot. the great law professor, voting rights attorney, Barbara Arnwine, talks about what's called the curing process. And what that means is you're going to have to go in to your county clerk with your paperwork to get your ballot counted. Now, I know it's work, but you know what? A lot of people have died for your right to vote. You can take a walk over to the county clerk's office, okay? In fact, that's the only reason Biden took Georgia, is because, and Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff became senators, is because Barbara Arnwine and Rainbow Push and other organizations ran this whole campaign to get people to go into their county offices, make sure their provisional ballots get counted. Tell everyone you know to check on this. And one thing that could be very, very helpful, please vote early. Take advantage of early voting, because if you show up and you're challenged, this gives you a chance to fix that. And one of the easiest things to do is simply re-register if you can. Some states will allow even re-registration on the day, like Wisconsin. So there are practical things you can do. And of course, we'll have a lot of this information on gregpalast.com. That's GREGPALAST. And by the way, you can also, beginning September 13th, you can download the movie for free. So you'll get some entertainment, but you get some education.
You don't know any Tamara Horn. You're absolutely certain you don't. You didn't call him, but you challenged his right to vote or have his ballot challenged.
Get out of my house.
Okay,
Get out of my house now.
I'm down in Georgia with these grown men dressed up for civil war, and they're all excited about this new voting law in Georgia, a law they're certain will allow the South to rise again. The law is called SB 202, and it's 98 pages of breathtaking obstacles to voting. I mean, they've made mail-in voting nearly illegal. They've shuttered ballot drop boxes. They've cut Sunday black souls to the polls day. And if you hand someone a slice of pizza or a bottle of water while they're waiting in line for 5 hours, you'll be charged with a felony crime. I'm not kidding. In Georgia, pizza is an act of civil disobedience. I've been covering vote suppression for The Guardian, BBC, Rolling Stone for 2 decades, and I've never seen anything like it. But what shook me up? I'm going through the bill, and I see a landmine planted in it. It's barely noticeable. For the first time in Georgia history, any voter can challenge an unlimited number of other voters and stop their ballots from being counted. And when I say unlimited, I mean unlimited. Our team contacted all 159 counties in Georgia. Muskogee County tells us 4,000 voters were challenged. In Cobb County, it was 48,000 voters challenged.
So now we know so what can we do to catch he's a part of this upcoming election? What do we put down there and do with that?
What can we do now? One of the big things I tell people to do, first of all, make sure that everyone you know and that get the word out, and that you should always check your registration a good 40 days before an election. One of the problems with the new vigilante laws is that some of these people, as you heard from Gerald Griggs from the NAACP, is that the new laws are allowing people to challenge on election day and even the day after election day to challenge your mail-in, the counting. So this is murderous. And then they're going to use this to try to not certify counties like Atlanta, like Houston, which is Harris County. I know that Commissioner Rodney Ellis is going to be fighting this like crazy. So what we need to do is get the film out and get the story out. Take some of the stories I have on gregpalast.com. You can sign up there for my stories for free. I'll write something with Reverend, and we're going to get it out to every outlet we possibly can. Warn people. And if they get this vigilante vote challenge, Barbara Arnwine will be able to tell you more about what can be done. I know that she will be on the front lines on this with the Transformative Justice Coalition.
No, that's right.
She hasn't need a microphone, Barbara. So Barbara and I will be working. She's going to be taking the film around the country. And I need other people to be doing that as well.
we're excited to get more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. Now, if you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those who are incarcerated, you can do so. If you're interested in impacting public policies that benefit education and businesses with social economic solutions, you can do that as well. You can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. Now, if you believe in the scholarships that we've given to thousands of students each year, you can help us out. We've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships year to date. Now, you can help young people achieve a higher education by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now for the annual fee of only $35. And if you're a student or a senior, it's only $15. You can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. Now, if you watch us every week, or if you listen to us on the radio, or if you're viewing on social media, we need you to become a member. And how do you become a member? It's simple. Visit us at rainbowpush.org and press join. Maybe you'd like to support the work of Push. If so, it's really simple. You can do so by texting the word PUSH, that's P-U-S-H, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving, or you can call us at 773-256-2775 or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. So whenever you want to support, you can do it from anywhere. So keep pushing, because we're going to keep pushing for you and keep hope alive.
The premiere of the movie is going to be in Hollywood, but this isn't a fictional account. This is the reality.
This is the real thing. Every frame in there really happened, and you'll see, because it looks staged. It looks some of this stuff looks crazy, because one of these vigilantes, the guy that knocked off the soldiers, that challenged the soldiers, this guy actually dresses like a vigilante with pearl-handled 6 guns and cowboy hat and boots and the whole thing. And he actually likes to pretend that he's the vigilante Doc Holliday. So it looks staged, but it's, believe me, this is real. And the guns you'll see in here, in this film, those guns are loaded.
Let's talk about loaded guns and intimidation in addition to the challenging, right? There's a challenging process, there's an intimidation process. Yes. How are those methods, we would often call them crimes, being used against the interest of regular everyday folks, regardless of party, regardless of who their preferred candidate is? It is causing them to think twice about participating in the process.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you'd think twice or 3 times, because I was in Arizona, where it's an open carry state.
Open carry of?
Open carry, you can, in other words, you can go out there with your 6 guns in a holster, or you have guys with AR-15s in full paramilitary gear, and they are going to Hispanic neighborhoods in Arizona, and they're standing next to the drop boxes with their automatic weapons. Now, you take you're going to go to a drop box with your family on the way to a picnic, and there's these guys with guns next to that drop box.
They're not police.
They're not police. They're self-appointed vigilantes, and they're claiming that they're stopping vote fraud. And a lot of times they'll ask people, especially Hispanics, where's your citizenship papers? They have no legal right to ask that. That's pure violent intimidation. And dig this, I mean, I found out, and you'll see it in the film, these guys are also using drones. So what they'll do is you'll go to a drop box, so especially this is in Arizona, mainly in Hispanic areas, and a Hispanic will walk up to a drop box to vote and put in their ballot, and they'll have a drone overhead, with a camera in their face, and it's total intimidation. And so it's intimidation, and some of it begins to get violent.
And in Texas, the vigilantes got violent. He said, help me, with his hand inside his coat. Then when I tried to help him, he pulls out a gun. That is when I was told to get on the ground.
Court records show Aguirre believed Zuniga was driving his work truck around with 750,000 illegal ballots inside. When police got to the scene, they found air conditioning parts inside. No illegal ballots.
The accusation was that I masterminded this scheme to go and forge all of these mail-in ballots.
At 8 seconds each, it'd be about, I don't know, about 200 years to do that. So it's amazing. You forged all those ballots. So tell me about how you forged the ballots.
First of all, I'm too lazy to sign hundreds of thousands of ballots. I'd be nuts. A vigilante stopped this air conditioning repair guy, said that he was a police officer, had the guy on the ground, telling him open up the truck, had his pistol out on the guy. I mean, I can imagine how terrorized he was.
The gunman was not a lone wolf. He was one of dozens of armed vigilantes hired by an election-denying billionaire.
Was arraigned on felony charges of unlawful restraint and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in connection with a badly botched, privately bankrolled investigation of alleged election fraud.
There were people outside my home with signs one day saying, stop the steal. So one idiot is out there with a rifle on his shoulder. So now there's a real fear of it. I take the security now. It's a real concern. I mean, the level of vitriol out there is just amazing.
Ellis was a target because, during COVID, the commissioner was about to mail out ballots to all voters in Houston. He was blocked by the Texas Attorney General, who crowed that
Harris County mail-in ballots that they wanted to send out were 2.5 million, and we were able to stop every one of them. Had we not done that, Donald Trump would have lost the election.
The great Rodney Ellis, who was the first black man to be elected a commissioner for Harris County, Texas. That's Houston. Now, Houston is has the largest African-American population of any city in America, by far. And Rodney Ellis was accused of personally forging 750,000 ballots and stuffing the ballot boxes. This is the type of violent intimidation and scare tactics, again, based on the idea that black people cheat.
Greg, let me ask you a question, because you just struck a nerve in terms of the historical context. 60 years ago this year was Freedom Summer.
Yeah.
A big mass voter registration effort in the Deep South, particularly highlighted in Mississippi. That summer, 3 young men who were working on voter registration were brutally murdered, their bodies secreted until they were discovered days after, Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner. So this sounds like the 2024 version of Freedom Summer, albeit updated to include assault rifles and camouflage fatigues. But Reverend Jackson often says that we shouldn't get discouraged, we should get determined. What do you say to folks who are going to see Vigilantes, Inc., to understand just the crisis that we're in? How do you help them get determined so that they're not discouraged about these extreme efforts, billions of dollars, interest being manipulated against the interest of everyday people who want to participate in the process? Give me some determination vitamin now from Vigilantes.
Okay, number one, first thing is simple. They can't steal all the votes all the time. There's a limit to what they can get away with vote suppression. You know, unfortunately, we have way too much of it. Too many people have their ballots challenged, their right to vote challenged. Too many people are intimidated. But people react, stand up to it, insist on voting, insist on curing their ballots, insist on these things. And don't forget, in 2020, I was in Georgia. It was horrific, the amount of vote suppression I was witnessing right in front of my eyes and filming. And you'll see it in the film. But still, you elected a Jewish senator, a black senator, and Joe Biden won by 12,000 votes. I mean, they can't steal all the votes all the time. Arizona, I was telling you about the drones and the guys with the guns and the military outfits and the whole thing. Still, Biden won that state, very close, by about 10,000 votes. So this is what's happening. But if you don't get discouraged and you take on these guys, don't let them say you can't vote. Don't pound the table. Don't create a violent scene where you get cuffed. You want to calmly present your papers. You want to calmly insist on your right to vote. And if you're at a drop box and some nutcase is there dressed up like G.I. Joe and has an AR-15, number one, you call the cops. That's intimidation. Number two, there are voter protection groups. It's 800 Our Vote. Is one thing you can do. There's many choices, and you can't let them intimidate you. But you want to make sure that you have, that's why I also say, please vote early or mail in your ballot so that you don't have these characters. So if something happens where they say you can't vote, you have enough time to fix the situation if you possibly can. And you don't always have to do like Major Turner did and fly to thousands of miles and hire an attorney. There's going to be a lot of attorneys ready to help out. There's going to be a lot of people ready to help out. Vote early. And if you do mail in your ballot, I want to say one thing. So many mail-in ballots, they disqualify also for they know, if you give me someone's zip code, I can pretty much tell you how they're going to vote. Okay? So they know when they look at those outside of that envelope and they got your return address, which you must put on, they pretty much know how you're voting. And they will do anything that they can to try to disqualify that ballot. So fill out your ballot carefully, carefully, carefully. Have someone check it over. Make sure you put on your proper return address. When I say proper return address, I mean the address of your registration. So if you move down the street, you don't have to re-register, but you have to use that original address, otherwise forget it. The other is make sure that you properly sign the outsides of the envelope. Only use black or blue ink, fill in the bubbles, don't put X's or anything else. You follow every rule very carefully. That's what you need to do. So you have to start out by protecting your own vote, but you have to vote. And you can't say, well, they're not going to count my vote, they're going to challenge my vote, and I don't care. No. You cannot do that. As you'll see, the Major himself, who went through all this work, he said it discourages me so much. It hurts him. It hurts him when he hears someone say, well, I don't need to bother to vote, or, yeah, they're giving me too much trouble. I have to wait in line 3 hours. I don't care. And one thing I did see when I saw those long lines, and I filmed those long lines in Georgia and in Ohio, where I was in a line on Souls to the Polls Sunday, when black people came out of their churches in buses. There was a 7-hour line, whereas in the white suburbs of Toledo, there was literally no line. But I didn't see, and this was freezing cold November, Ohio, not one person stepped out of line. And I said, and they were all in an outside parking lot for hours. And I said, man, it's cold. How can you stand here? And he said, well, I got to vote.
I got to vote.
Got to vote.
That's an important word around these parts, where we're reminded every day by Reverend Jackson to keep hope alive. Thank you for the time to have a conversation about this important documentary, the documentation of what's really happening in the real world. Your final thought about where's the word of hope in all of this? You're raising the alarm, and it is alarming.
Yeah.
This is not easy stuff.
Yeah.
But I imagine that you put it all together not to scare everybody, but to make them aware of what's going on and find the value in voting.
You be warned and prepared. You don't go into the woods where there are bears without some bear spray. And now you need the vigilante spray, so to speak, nothing violent. You got to be prepared, and now you've been warned, and you should warn others. So I want people to understand that this struggle, after all, we go back in the film, we go back into the history too. You know, it was pretty grim. There was no vote for African Americans, and wanted after in the 15th Amendment Civil War, and then it was taken away with the black laws and Jim Crow. And then it had to be won again with the Voting Rights Act. And then Obama wins, and what does the Supreme Court do? He wins in 8 and 12, and so in 13, they take away most of the Voting Rights Act. But so you have to protect your vote. And the struggle never ends, but we win in the end. We can win in the end. And you know, that's one thing. That's why I'm very impressed that Kamala Harris is hired finally, because the Democratic Party, let's be honest, has not been exactly not been a stand-up operation on protecting the vote. But with Kamala Harris, she's making that commitment. But we have to make that commitment. Don't expect a political party or a politician to save your vote. You save your vote. And we have done it. We have done it. Georgia elected, you have to think about this, Reverend Warnock, John Ossoff as United States Senator, two very progressive Democrats, two extremely progressive, articulate Democrats out of what was considered redneck red Georgia. That state has turned blue.
Yeah. These are important times. Two guys with a similar name, Gamaliel, one a soldier, the other now a senator from the great state of Georgia. Shows us the power of the vote. Reverend often says that we must keep hope alive. It is hope season. And so you heard from Greg Palast himself, not just about the crisis, but really the moment of opportunity, passion, faith, and hope. So check your registration. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote. Understand the process. Get educated about the ballot in your state. When the sample ballots are sent out, review it. Have a conversation with your friends about what's on it. And then mark it on your calendar, like an appointment to go to the barbershop, the hairdresser, out to eat. Make it your plan that you're going to participate in the process. Because while there are vigilantes running amok, trying to intimidate all of us from participating in the process, this is our moment. And as we sang in the movement, ain't gonna let nobody turn us around, or if we take the updated version by that public poet named Kendrick Lamar, we gonna be all right. So here's to this election. Here's to you pushing back against the vigilantes. Watch Vigilantes, Inc. Share it with your friends. And even after you see the whole breakdown, don't get disgusted. Get determined and keep hope alive.
My husband is a huge Disney fan. And, oh geez, Tom, you should have moved our ammo. There's our ammo. So my name is Pamela Reardon. I am currently 6th District Committee woman to the state party. So the last 2 years, I hit over 10,000 doors for President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Did President Trump really lose the state of Georgia?
No.
Tell me why. Why do you think that?
Because I know for sure that voters have voted here and do not live here.
I got to give you this. This is, do you know this woman? Do you recognize that woman?
Not offhand.
You don't recognize her?
No, but
do you recognize?
If they were taking pictures with me with them, I mean,
I'm not gonna blame you if you took a picture with her. She seems to me a very nice person.
I don't know. I don't.
Her name is Tamara Horn. Do you know Tamara? You don't know any Tamara?
I don't. The name's not familiar.
You're absolutely certain you don't.
I don't.
You never spoke to her?
No. No.
What about this guy and his wife on his honeymoon? See, there he is, just so the camera could see that he's on his honeymoon. But do you recognize that man?
No.
His interesting name. His name is Storm Saul.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose he was on the list.
Yeah. Did you ever speak to Storm Saul?
No, I told you already. I did not speak to the 32,000 people.
But okay. Well,
I can't even follow up on my own people that are calling all the time.
So you never called them, but you challenged the right to vote?
I'd have to go back and look at the list.
Explain that story. In fact, if I get the math right, you made 2 challenges. You challenged 32,379 voters, said don't count their ballots. Or,
No, just send them a letter to come in and prove that they live still in Georgia at that address.
Okay, I have a piece of paper from you. This is what you filed with the county, which said you are challenging her right to have her ballot counted.
No, I'm not.
It says right here, accept this letter as a challenge to these electors' eligibility to vote. Signed, Pamela Reardon.
I can't go through 32,000 people. I was handed the
Wait,
list.
you can't go through 32,000. Excuse me.
Through the vote, vetted these.
Have you ever heard of the Ku Klux Klan
Okay,
law
so this.
Have you heard of the Ku Klux Klan law of 1871?
I'm from Canada.
So you don't know the Ku Klux Klan law?
I'm from Canada.
Clearly you don't know Georgia law. The Ku Klux Klan law of 1871.
Get out.
Do you believe this woman shouldn't have her vote counted?
That has nothing to do with it.
Is this an attempt to remove a lot of Democrats, black people from voting to win the election?
I am far from that, sir. And you have crossed the line. You have crossed the line. Get out of my house now.
I shall get out of your house
before
now.
I throw you.
And you are sure that this is your legal voting address?
You are an asshole.
Thank you. They do have a rifle right next to the door, so believe me, I wasn't going to overstay my welcome.
So we phoned about 800 of these allegedly illegal voters, and they were shocked. First, what do you mean my right to vote is being challenged? And what do you mean I don't live where I live? We added it up, and more than 250,000 Georgians are facing a challenge to their vote by these vigilante vote challengers, 88 of them. Now, one of them likes to dress up like, well, a vigilante.
This is a it's a Ruger new Vaquero. It's a single action. I got it stuck in there where it won't fall out. So. I am Alton Russell from Columbus, Georgia. I am the Georgia Tellteller. And I'm a toilet paper salesman where I make my living. Wiping up. Right now, I'm the chairman of the Columbus-Muskogee Republican Party, and I serve on the state committee and the state executive committee for the Georgia State Republican Party. So I'm pretty involved in that, which I think is the right. Let's see, that would be the right way to be, and also I'm on the right.
Apparently, you had filed some challenges to 4,000 voters.
Yes.
No ballot. No ballot in the mail, called to register, and the announcement there was, Mr. Turner, you have been challenged.
Major Gamaliel Turner is the military's expert on warfare of the future.
I project weapons and capabilities out to the future. You know, for me, it's all about the survival of the soldier.
Assigned to Port Hueneme in California.
So you're telling me 2,600 miles away, 2 days or 3 days before an election, that if I want to vote, all I have to do is show up and prove as an American citizen that I have the right to vote. Again, you talk to fools like that. You talk to fools like that. I'm not a fool. You can't compel somebody to say, oh, you can vote. I'm trying to vote now. How are you going to put these other things like, it's no more than a poll tax. It's no more than how many pieces of bubble gum are in this jar. It's the same thing over and over, just modernized and reviewed.
So it's an old Jim Crow tax.
It's the same thing. But I know what it looks like, because I was there.
Indeed, he was there. Major Turner comes from an illustrious civil rights family. His father, Reverend Harold Turner, founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference alongside Reverends Ralph Abernathy and Martin Luther King.
A lot of the meetings, private meetings, coordinating meetings was done at our house. Martin was there, Reverend Abernathy was there.
They were just like friends and family and people coming in. We're sitting here at this table, but I'm gonna tell you, this table had papers on it. This was a working table.
Speaking from the pulpit, I had an opportunity to change some lives. Did I take that opportunity wisely? I think I did.
Oh, looks like you did.
He baptized me.
Wow. So,
They mean.
It's her name.
The modern civil rights movement that was born right here at this dining room table would lead to the passage of the Voting Rights Act and change America's heart and soul. A revolution planned right here because the Turner House was strategically located between the King and Abernathy homes. So the leadership could cross through a series of backyards and not be seen for their safety.
This is a hideout.
They slowly but surely, one at a time, a 5 or 10 minute gap between each other, will come through the backyards and sit.
Bless this house, O Lord.
He remembers praying
Stand it on solid ground.
praying they wouldn't be arrested or beaten on their way back home.
Son, let the Lord in.
Yes.
It was a very scary conversation about what they were about to do.
This is what we are up against every single day. I understand why my father is fighting with his wheelchair. You don't understand? If you don't get this vote to the Queens, when you go home, everybody can do something.
Yeah.
He has put his life, he came here from Portugal. He's going back to Portugal to finish editing this film. But because Reverend Williams here, he said, I'm like, I'm in it. Because Reverend wants me to do God. And I'm not done editing it, but I'm going to give you his act, and I'm going to read what I found. And that's what he did. The general boxing ceases to be lost on abuse because we have friends and we have allies. We don't have better friends and allies than Greg and Zach. They put their lives into this. They shot Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Sheen, who are behind them and who want to help them and help us make this thing work. So would you please go find it. You can get the best democracy you can buy for free. Show it to your friends. If we're sitting around talking about power and everything else that we watch on TV, we don't need to watch it. Let's do that. Just one Friday night. So please go home to Greg Palast, GregPalast.com. Get this film, it is free. Call your radio station, ask your pastor to post it.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement. Join